going to put it down here. All right. So this time I'm actually upstairs. I know it's a running gag. If you were just finding this, then you might see that on a bunch of my other videos and whatnot. But I have my lady who I always talk about here, because in one of the other live streams, I did mention a couple of things. Can't remember them off the top of my head, but I did want to get her perspective on a couple of things. So I'm really into magic, and I always have been. And she's been more into shamanism, and just a lot of our conversations and different things have kind of blended those two things together. And I've learned a lot from her. And I know I've dropped a bunch of hints and different stuff, but I finally got her on camera. So basically, if you want to like give a little intro about like kind of what your background with shamanism is.
Yeah, sure.
So
yeah. So my name is Ara Gaines, and I am a shaman. I studied with different Native Indigenous elders, as well as my Kira elders that are down in South America. I have been studying shamanism since I was 12 years old when I healed a cat, but not this one here, who's so sweet, Pixie, but my own cat. Because I didn't have any understanding that healing was impossible. Just like there's many people that are like, oh, magic is possible. And then they're able to do a spell, or maybe something that's really just natural law of attraction or intuition. And so in my mind, when my cat got sick and got struck in the corner of her eye, they said she'd have to be put down or have a very expensive operation we wouldn't have money for. And this lady just said, put your hands on her every single day and visualize that she will get better. And sure enough, my cat healed, and even healed her eye completely. And they didn't actually think that
was possible.
My cat was my cat, because she actually healed. And then I just listened to the synchronicities. The lady, she was a Reiki healer, and I was like, nope, not you. And the synchronicities kept leading me to a person who was the Green Man. And then I ended up meeting this gentleman who was a Reiki teacher, and found out that he was a shaman, a medicine man of the Huron tribe of up in Canada, above North America. And so I studied with him when I was a teenager, and then continued to study with different indigenous elders and the healing traditions and the shamanic pathway, and went through a very long process through initiations and becoming a medicine woman, as well as an ultimate aesthetic, which is the Andean Paco of the traditions of South America and Peru and their traditions. And so it's been a very long journey, but it's been beautiful. And the thing for me that's really fascinating to hear from the perspective of magic and shamanism is, just to kind of sum it up, is that like magic is kind of tackling those things on that energetic spiritual realm of, like using different colors and different, different days of the month and different kinds of energies and herbs and, maybe sigils and things like that. So they're doing that work to basically, manifest whatever it is you want. The shamanic healing, what that is oriented towards, is being able to actually help us to clear away the imprints, the energetic cords, the soul contracts, lost soul pieces, these things that might be from our own trauma from our childhood, things that were passed on to us generationally through our ancestors, or even past life things. And so I thought like a great thing, I was like, okay, like how could we explain this and have an example for this? What we'll get into is about us both doing our kind of our own magic manifestation to find each other, and then how the shamanism and doing the shamanic healing on our journey helped us to be able to have, this amazing relationship. So, one thing is like, you can say, hey, Nick, do a love spell for me, or you might do your own love spell or law of attraction, right? And then manifest somebody. But just because you manifest that person or that thing doesn't mean that there's things going on subconsciously or things from your past that are actually blocking it. But when you put magic and shamanism together, then you're able to actually not only get what you want, but also not sabotage it, and be able to have those clearing roadblocks so that you can really be able to harness whatever it is that you are wanting to manifest in your life.
Yeah. So, so that's the angle we're going?
Yeah.
Cool. So, for me, I did a spell. I'm trying to remember the dates and whatnot. If you watched my my last live stream, I'm still dealing with a little bit of pain from a root canal. So bear with me if I'm a little dumb and short, but it was about like a month or maybe 2 months before we actually connected and before we met. But I did a generalized declarative spell, not with any like tools or anything in particular, just in sacred space on a generalized altar with representatives for earth, air, fire, and water, and just it when I invoked the general god and goddess and the four directions. I was saying, this is the kind of person in a relationship that I want. This is the kind of, and I described a bunch of different qualities. And then I released it. I didn't burn a sigil. I didn't do anything with a cord or anything with, like, I guess you could say I was basically candle magic, but not even with like a candle that you would wrap with paper or whatever, but a big, more just energetic based rather than anything with a sympathetic magic. So, mine is very like high magic E. You could kind of class it between high and low magic. Medium magic isn't really a thing, but that was my perspective on how I did that kind of thing as a attractor. So what did you do?
So actually, it's really funny. So I had this guy that I had been on and off with, and at the very end, like I was like, okay, like I'm just like gonna be out of the situation, just like so done with it. And yeah, so I basically was working on this vision board, and like we weren't even at that point like really together, but like we were in this living situation together, and just like, okay, like I need to like make my way out of this. And it was like at the very end, and I put together a vision board, and I was putting it together, all of it together, and then I didn't get to finish it, and he threw it out in the trash can like before it was even put together, like piece on it. So if any of you guys know about law of attraction, and back in the day when they had The Secret that came out, was very, very popular. I've been into the new age since I was a teenager, so over 20 years, and grew up with mom being psychic and gifted and everything like that, and coming from gypsy healers. So it's just kind of been in my blood, and I've been supported since a little girl. So it's like I just had it on the paper and was just like, you know what? I told him, I said, I'm going to manifest the love of my life. And it doesn't matter that I didn't even glue it on the thing. Now, some people may be like, oh my God, my vision, my manifestation isn't going to happen because it's not been thrown in the trash can. And I'm just like, nope. I was like, it will happen, right? So now let's say like he did his magic. I did my vision board, right? That got thrown in the trash can. So like, okay, we're still going to find somebody. Now, when I came back to Connecticut coast down in Ashburn, North Carolina, it's a very big spiritual hub, kind of like a sister city to Sedona. A lot of people know about Sedona, but like Asheville on the East Coast is kind of the big city, spiritual city, compared to like Sedona. I went back to Connecticut, and I was at my friend's house, and I didn't really think like I was gonna like meet anybody, but I was like, okay, let's just like see who's out there in the dating world. And it was OkCupid. And now this is another thing too, with going back to manifestation, even though we're talking about shamanic healing, I mean, how they go together. It's like the fact that it's like I was on there, like didn't see anybody. And then as soon as I like let go of attachment, even though I wasn't really like, okay, I'm going to definitely find something. I was like, oh, let's see what's out there. But that aspect of like when you let go and you just surrender, I did that. And then before, like I wasn't going to go back on again, I was like, I'll just look more time. And actually it's a very specific thing I said, I just wish like, and it wasn't even like I was like hoping to like find the love of my life. I was just like, maybe like I could just meet people like just like whatever, like no attachments. I was like, I just wish somebody like lived in town. You know what I mean? Like live in town. And I also just randomly had in my head about like, I just love cats so much. So it's like, I was thinking about cats. I go back on there. Nowhere in these searches did I ever see him pop up. I look up and I'm like, oh my God, he has a cat with him.
The main picture that I had was me with my cat Reese, who if you watch a bunch of my earlier videos, Reese is in a lot of them. And I mean, even if you go on my Etsy shop, you'll find that the tarot listing is a picture of Reese with my favorite tarot deck. So having the cat in the picture was actually part of one of the things that she was thinking about. And then when she did the whole surrendering thing, it was in alignment. Yes. I guess is the word you would use.
Well, it's like, hey, he has a picture of him and the cat. Like, I love this. Like, it'd be like one thing, he has a picture of himself, but like the cat was all like with him like on the couch. It was so cute.
Best picture ever.
Yeah. And then now another thing too was like manifestation, right? Like, your list might be like all these things, but then something might not be quite that. And like we even like watch like dating shows, like, you know, like love relationship shows to see people in real life, like
probably gonna watch
how
one of those after this.
they actually, yeah, it's very fascinating because when you look at that, you can see these people, what they want, what they desire, right? So like you could even imagine that, like if you're like wanting to find the love of your life, like wanting to find your twin flame, like wanting to find your soulmate, right? Like you can be like, oh, I want that love of my life. And like these shows will actually set people up, like, you know, like they'll have like Married at First Sight, or they'll have Love is Blind. And they have it set up so that these people could match, which is the same kind of concept if you think about it as magic. But it's people saying, okay, like let's look at the data. These people had the same ideals, the same dreams, the same desires. Like a lot of times, like it would be like maybe a Catholic person, or maybe it would be like somebody super into sports and you know, that family is really important to them, but they want to travel first, or whatever it is, or like what, you know, these little criteria, right? Like we look those into what we want. If we want, you know, to manifest a partner, if we want to manifest, you know, a job or whatever it is. So there's these things that we look, but then what happens is these people find each other, and some of them like can be super amazing matches, but their trauma, or their belief systems, or the things that happen in their past relationships, you literally can start seeing it unfold where these people are actually sabotaging relationships, or their fears are coming up and they're expressing it. And like we can watch it. And because we understand psychology, and because we understand shamanic healing, we understand our belief systems and those layers that are underneath there, we can see why these people have these things come up, right? And so it's like for us, it's like that's where the shamanic aspect comes in with shamanic healing. So when we have shamanic healing happening, so like let's say you manifest that person that you're like, oh my God, like this is the one for me. Or maybe you have somebody that like things didn't work out, but it was because of those issues. Like maybe it was attachment styles, right? Like so attachment styles can be like the anxious attachment and the avoidant attachment, or it could be like, you know, just different things that come up with relationships. Or maybe you were hurt by a partner before, right? And you had such heartbreak because you went through this tragic relationship. Maybe they cheated on you, or maybe you went through a divorce and there's heartbreak. Those things, and then we'll pop back over to you. Those things, what's happening is that is stuff that's from your past, that's actually energetically in your field, and that's happening on a spiritual level that's affecting you, that's actually blocking you from being able to maybe fully move into that relationship. Or maybe those things are coming up kind of as walls or defenses, or even just like, I'll just give examples, like soul loss can happen, or maybe a soul contract. So it's like, you know, like maybe like there was somebody that I knew that I dated, and he could not commit. And I was like, okay, well, obviously like this isn't gonna work out, you know, and he had avoidant attachment style. And the thing is, he lost an ex-girlfriend, you know, like he you know, told everybody, I'm not saying their name, so I'm being anonymous, but like, you know, he shared that he had lost an ex girlfriend that, you know, that died, and, you know, and it really messed him up and stuff like that. And so that was a big part of that process of like why we just couldn't work it out, or he had the problem with other people. Eventually he did find somebody. He's like, he's actually going to get married, which is like crazy because like nobody thought that he'd ever get married.
Big switch. So
big switch.
Like, would you argue that he did a lot of like healing in those kinds of things?
I don't know what he did shamanically. I know he's in the spiritual community, and he was doing, you know, doing therapy and kind of digging deep into the subconscious layer. So I don't know if he did shamanic heal or not, but he went into those places to heal those parts, and able to now get married. Like this person was like never going to get married, never going to have kids. He's with this person that literally has 3 boys, and they're getting married this year, which is like wild. And I last I had heard, because I didn't talk to him, because, you know, his, you know, I have to respect, like his girlfriend didn't want me around because I had dated him in the past. But the thing is that he was able to do that inner work that then was able to get him not just a relationship, but actually be able to be married and have this family. So
in a lot of magic, we always focus on like the outer result, the different thing that we want to make happen, whether it's something like a relationship, a job, some opportunity, even creating a good day at work the next day, or a good positive conversation, or manifesting some opportunity or something. But that's constantly focusing on the outside stuff. And one of the things that I really find with the shamanic aspect of practice, and what we've both kind of really dove into, is the idea that you can go after all these outside results all you want. And one of the things that I harp on all the time is the real world action that you need to take in order to get that kind of thing. But what I've really learned from her perspective is the idea that there are things that could be on an energetic level from arguably past lives, even, or just even little energetic pulls or cords, you could even say, that would prevent you or make it harder to to actually get that result that you want to get. So like what kinds of what kinds of things can you do to alleviate those hangups, those cords, those what are some options?
Okay, so let's just start off like with a basic example. Like, there's so many different things. I think like relationships is like a great example. So, let's say, and it could be romantic relationships, and it could also be friendships as well. Maybe even sometimes I've seen clients that have had struggles because of past issues with their family or lovers, and it's carried over into not only romantic relationships, but also even into their career. Like one client, just had struggles, and it had to do with an ex-partner, and then they were able to have these connections and relationships just at work, even like they weren't connecting with like friendships, and it was because of that hang up from the ex-partner. And so in that example, usually what happens when it comes to relationships and we're having trouble, like we can't get over somebody, or we're going into a new relationship and we have these fears that come up, it's because of those baggage. And that baggage isn't just like something like, oh, like I have this baggage.
It's not mental.
And it's not just mental, like in our mind. Like we can think like it's mental, like I can't get over this person, or like I was hurt by somebody and now I get into this new relationship and I'm like afraid they're gonna hurt me.
Or one of the biggest things is, why does this keep happening? In every job I have, in every relationship I have, in every insert situation here, you find that things happen over and over and over and over. And from a shamanic perspective, why is that?
That is from a few things, but it's a lot of people usually will like look at first, like it can be like from like a previous relationship, or let's say like, maybe you had a situation, like I had a situation with a school, and it was just, I had some crazy stuff happen in it. And so there was just like a lot of drama in the school, and that it really affected everybody. And I feel like that for a time, like I had to move through that and do my own shamanic healing around that, because it really hurt me. But I saw other people that, like they were just kind of like off on their own and like had that hard time, but they were able to like overcome that, with being able to, just be able to move forward in that way. And it's more of this aspect of like, like let's say like that trauma happened at the school I went to. Like I had to go and do things of cutting cords from that school and from the people there. And I had to, heal myself from soul loss that I had. So soul loss, a lot of people know about cutting cords, but soul loss is actually when it's very interesting perspective. So like I used to talk to a psychologist years ago, a therapist, and we would actually talk. I would talk about shamanism, and he'd talk about it from a psychological perspective. It was like really funny. I'm like, I don't really know how much you're doing to like go to therapy, but like this is so cool. Like we're just talking about like psychotherapy and shamanism. He's like, oh, that's what this is, and this is what. So it was really great. And so in the psychology perspective that he had was that he literally said, he's like, oh, he goes, well, soul loss to us is when somebody fragments like a part of their psyche and it's like disconnected, or, like maybe like they're shut down emotionally and they feel like they're turned off. It's because they disconnected from that part of their psyche. Now, in the way that like I would understand that from my background is that it's even can be called like a susto, like in South America, it's called susto, which means the fright of the spirit. So the soul is like having this.
That's the first time you defined that for me.
Yeah. and so that fright of the spirit, it's almost like a part of our piece goes and fragments out and leaves. Now, the way it, I like to say that it's not necessarily that like it's just gone forever and like we lost it, but it's what it is. It's like in the psychology perspective, the way he explained it was like, okay, like it's disconnected and like it's somewhere like deep in your subconscious. And you don't know where it is because it's kind of like been pushed down. So like maybe like you have a childhood trauma or you have a heartbreak and it gets really, really pushed down into the subconscious. Okay. But in the perspective from the shaman's eyes, the way that they see it is that this part of the spirit leaves and goes into the spirit world, or it gets left behind at a certain location. And a lot of times soul loss actually can be with the ex-partner, or it could be with the community. So if some traumatic
like
thing happened, a parent or situation, a child,
a caregiver,
Yeah.
or even something that happens at like school, like, you know, it could even be with a teacher, or
Exactly.
like a friend or something like that. But
Yeah, like-
how does somebody go about getting that soul piece back, though?
Yeah, so the way that that's done is through a process called soul retrieval. And so soul retrieval is where I would go as a shamanic healer, and I would go into the spirit world, and I would journey on behalf of my client, and I would be able to see where that soul piece is in the spiritual realm. So I always like to say this to people, like when they're new to shamanism, like even like journeying, I'll be like, people like, oh, am I really seeing this, or am I just imagining it? So just start off by imagining it's a guided meditation. You're visualizing it and you're going into your psyche, you know, and then of course you want to expand into it as you go into, like, for instance, doing shamanic journeying, then you can open up to this idea that you're going into the spiritual realm. So for me, my understanding as a shaman is I'm going into the spiritual world, the spiritual domain, and then I'm going with my animal allies to see where your soul piece is. A lot of times it's usually with another person. Sometimes it can be at a location. Sometimes people come to me and they actually don't even know like where it actually came from. And when I go there and I say, oh, I saw this scene, maybe they were playing hockey, and I see them, or I see them on, you know, playground. I see them, you know, like one person, I saw them at a, you know, at a train rest stop. You know, like a lot of times there'll be some significance to this, and they'll say, oh, like, wow, like that was actually a time when I was going and I was doing, you know, hockey. I remember like that was when I had this experience where I didn't feel quite the same.
So initially they weren't aware of it until you picked up on that when you were doing your thing.
Yep, the soul retrieval.
And then that brought that in. What you picked up on was then brought into their awareness, and then they were able to kind of identify
where it came from,
where the problem or a problem came from. And then how do you integrate?
Yeah. So what happens with that? Make sure you check and see if there's any.
Oh, that's shamanism.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love that.
We're reading the comments, guys. Sorry, it's a little bit. It's kind of tiny over in the corner.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's so beautiful that you were able to study and learn from him. Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, we always have to give praise and gratitude to the Native Indigenous elders for their wisdom teachings and their work. And on a side note, I really want to make this really super clear. I know, like, you know, like different things can become super, super trendy. And with shamanism, I think there's a lot of emphasis on focusing on people wanting to be a shaman because they see it like as his highest degree. Trust me, if I tell more stories and he gets me on here more often, like my journey was not easy. Like nobody that like my native elder once told me if anybody knew what it took to become a medicine person and go through initiations and everything, they would not do it. It's like an act of service. And secondly, shamanic healing is not the end all be all of the concept that people have of shamanism. It's actually being a steward of the earth as well. It's helping to heal the spirits of nature. It's helping, you know, like a lot of times, like I get called, I just want to share this, like this little quick thing, but like I'll get called into communities and it's like, oh, there's some stuff going down here. And the spirits are like, you need to fix this stuff that's going on in this community on a spiritual level. Like there'll be things, or there'll be some disruption at someone's house in the land, and things will be going on, and they'll call me out to like navigate it. And it's something to do with the spirits or something to do with the community, that there's things that are out of balance. So like that's a lot of work. And I just want to like do this quick plug in. I know he's like, this is not a plug in for anything else. I'm not making any money as like affiliate marketing. This is spring water, and he actually has a copper bottle too, and we have them copper bottles. Just make sure you get real copper bottles. So we have spring water, and a really great way to connect with the earth and to empower yourself is to drink spring water. You can literally go to the website findaspring.com, and you can find springs all over. I know it's in the US that they have them, but they probably have other places too. And then that way you can go to the spring waters, and we will be sharing more on spring waters and connecting with the spirits of the land and helping them heal. But let's get back to soul retrieval. I just want to make that plug.
Yeah. So how does somebody integrate the soul? How does somebody integrate like a soul piece?
Okay, so integrating it is a step after I've done the soul retrieval. So when I go to that scene and I see where their soul has been left, that part of their soul, I then need to talk with that soul piece, and it becomes a negotiation with that soul piece.
Hmm.
And I do healing on that soul piece. So I'm healing them from that let's say time frame, almost like a frozen
It's
snapshot.
like a snapshot.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah.
mm-hmm. A frozen snapshot in time, and I'm healing them. So imagine like if you do things like healing the inner child, like, right, I'm sure like the majority of us have heard of like healing your inner child meditations, where we visualize ourselves from a moment of time and we're imagining healing the inner child. That's the same thing I'm doing, but I'm doing it at an energetic level. So I'm actually doing the shamanic healing, doing the energy clearing, doing any cord cutting, anything that needs to be done to heal spirit. And then I have to make an agreement with that part of your soul and say, okay, what do you need to feel safe and loved and welcome back home? And there's always a negotiation. And sometimes, honestly, it's like, I had one with a client that was like, I need to go outside more and be in nature and play, and just like put my phone aside and go down to the river. And I actually got like images of the wolf. And then, interestingly enough, too, I saw with, I don't know if it was that shamanic session or it was a different one, I saw the rainbow, and I said, you need to have a rainbow on you. It needs to like go on you. And I wasn't sure if it meant a necklace or whatever it meant. Interestingly enough, this person, when I shared that, they said they used to go down to the river all the time and they had not been going down there. And then they started going down there and they actually could feel that joy returning. So not only their soul piece returning, but like that joy that they were bringing to that part of themselves, like nourishing that soul retrieval. And the wolf was actually something that they had connected to in the past. They had a very profound experience with the wolf spirit, and we did a wolf animal power retrieval. That's another part of shamanic healing. And the rainbow, interestingly enough, she actually said she had a rainbow that was one of those ones that reflects off of the window into the room. And she goes, for a couple of weeks, it hasn't been, or maybe even like, I don't know if it was a couple of weeks or a couple of months, but it was like for a good while, it had not been shining. And she specifically said, I used to love it because the rainbow would wake me up when I woke up, and it would hit right across my face. And I could see the flickering of the rainbow in my eyes, and it just made her so happy. So she moved the rainbow like prism. I didn't even know she had that over. And she was actually feeling the energy. And she was like, I can feel the rainbow coming in. And she felt this joy and this happiness. And so that's the kind of thing of like, we go from this part of, this person says, okay, like I want to be able to have more connections at work. And I want to be able to have this openness with friendships. And they weren't even about romantic relationships. It was just about like their career and about friendships and wanting to feel this love and this lightheartedness again. And like literally, it was so beautiful. It was like soul retrieval from soul loss, and this kind of child part of herself, and then this rainbow coming in, and the wolf spirit doing a power animal retrieval, and like the shifts that changed like over time was amazing. And even like her face looked different. Like it looked so light and so beautiful, and it was like beautiful to see that work in that healing light of the shamanic healing work.
Now, so that brings up an interesting parallel though, because you have like, you can kind of compare it a little bit with like, there's the magical act of the soul retrieval where you would go into the spirit world and and then communicate with the soul piece and say, what do you need? And then the soul piece says, I need more of X. I need this person to do X, Y, or Z, like go down to the river or put the phone away and go out into nature and stuff. So there is that parallel of, there's a magical action and then a real world action to kind of bring it into the concrete. I mean, if we can relate that to the as above, so below, the complementary kind of stuff that goes on in the inner world has to be brought to the outer world, or stuff that's done in the higher or lower realms has to happen on this physical plane. Are there any other kinds of shamanic activities that you might want to highlight, as far as something that you feel might not be like explained very well?
I mean, I just say that like, there's some other things that with the shamanic work, maybe I can share if people end up being curious now or later about power animal retrieval. And so power animal retrieval is really from this perspective of helping to empower us with the spirit and the energy of an animal. When I do that, people normally don't say, I want the power animal retrieval of this animal. Like that animal will come.
Oh, so they don't come to you with a specific one. I want a bear. you know?
Yep.
Okay.
And a lot of times, like when people will come to me, they'll say, I don't really know what I want or what I need. And I just see what's there. So it's like sometimes like they might need that power animal retrieval before they even need soul retrieval, before they need to go into deeper work. Like sometimes there's like things that you're doing. Because like the way it is with like shamanic healing is we have cleansing and clearing of purification, releasing and letting go. And then we have empowering and like really leveling up the client. So we're feeling them that new light energy. And then also goes hand in hand with the concepts within the Quiro indigenous peoples of Andes, Peru, which have this aspect of the Sami and the Hucha. And so a lot of people know about Chi, universal life energy and the prana, right?
Yeah, or the Tao.
Yep. So they know about this energy, this life force, right? And so Mother Earth, Mother Nature, she has the most Sami. That's why we feel so good in nature, because Sami is the pure, refined energy of the universe. And so when we go out into nature, they even say like we go out and we even like hearing the water or seeing the water, it brings us that healing. We ground, we put our feet on the earth. There's that healing. Same thing with spring water. It's that healing energy from the earth, right? And so the Sami is very purely refined in nature. And that's why it's really beautiful to go out into nature. And it can also amplify your magical work. On a side note, when you do ceremony in nature, even if you're outside in your backyard, it really can amplify it, because you're actually tapping into that reserve of the Sami energy. And then the Hucha is the heavy, dense, compressed energy of Sami. So humans are the only ones that create Hucha. And so a lot of our diseases and a lot of our, getting sick, and even like our trauma and like our emotional challenges come from the fact that we just have a lot of the Hucha. So you could imagine it's like the same thing as like when the joints, as we get older, like they might be crotchety, our bodies might not be able to move as well. That energy could be likened to the idea of Hucha, or if like you've ever had an injury and you feel like everything is compressed, right? Like that's that compressed, dense energy to Hucha. So from a perspective of shamanic healing, we would go work alongside with the other things like soul retrieval, power animal retrieval, different kinds of shamanic healing techniques that are helping the client. But in addition to that, there's the cleansing and purification techniques. And so that can be anything from, this isn't more of an indigenous means, but the shamanic healing of doing like the chakra clearings, that's where we're helping to move out the sludge in the chakras.
And getting them spinning.
And getting them spinning and healthy and vibrant.
Mm-hmm. And even in like the Kara tradition, there's like so you have like the chakras in like the Eastern kind of stuff, but the Kara tradition, you have the Nawis, which they're not seen as like spinning centers of energy, they're eyes. Mm-hmm. And there's a huge distinction with that, because a lot of people that like they'll step into the Kara stuff and they're like, oh, that sounds a lot like chakras. They're not chakras.
Very different.
And each of them has their own what do I want to say?
Energetic powers and gifts.
Yeah. And associations with different things, and like clearing out those things, because they're energy centers in the same way that like we have our own physical stuff that allows us to do different things. Like, you have your two eyes and all the other jazz. I don't want to go through a whole list, but the energies, the Naui energy centers, they allow you to, one, I would argue, and tell me if I'm wrong, interact with the world that's both the one we are in, physical, and then the more energetic world too, and then different aspects of it. Because I know that there's like the two eyes, and then one of the Nauis, which is like the third eye, so you're seeing without seeing.
Yeah,
if I remember that right.
And the other thing is too, like for instance, going into that, there's actually the Champi Carpe, which Carpe means initiation, and the Champi, there's two different Champi initiations, but there's a Champi Carpe that's actually leaving the belts and helping to empower the Nauis. And so then that way our Nauis are naturally in their flow and their chi and their life force, so that we have strong protection, that we have healthy vibrancy. And so there's things like that with working with the Hucha. And the Hucha, what happens is that Hucha gets accumulated into our energetic field. So even if we manifest our partner, even if we manifest that dream job, if we have that Hucha in our field, it's like, imagine like, okay, like if you haven't taken a shower and you've ever gone camping and you're not feeling so hot, and you're like, what are you going to do? Like,
or you've been at a festival for 4 days.
Yeah. the festival.
Yeah.
And it's like
Been there.
maybe half the people were just taking a shower. So, but like, you say like the hygiene, right? Like it's like that's like the physical hygiene, right? But the spiritual hygiene is helping to constantly clear all that hucha that's accumulating in our field and bringing that Sami energy. And maybe at the end, we'll do a little practice of the meditation with that, if you remind me. And we get to it. If you guys are interested in that, let us know. It's a Samachikui meditation. So going back to this aspect of the hucha and going to the Sami, in general, like we can say, let's give an example. Okay, let's say if you buy a house and it's an old house and it needs to be fixed up, you might first start off by cleaning the house, right? That's like that kind of general maintenance of the energy hygiene. So like when people are doing seining or spurging or smudging or working with some kind of incense or some kind of, floral fragrances, like maybe Florida water, and they're doing any kinds of Kananga water.
It's a cleansing.
They're cleansing, right? But that's an overall, right? That's like an overall. So when you own a house and you bought the house and the house, is a good deal. You got a good deal on that house. It's a real good deal. It's such a great deal. And you're like, wow, we got this for a real
We got this for a steal, but why?
Why did you get it for a steal, right? You got it for a steal. You go and you clean up the house and all of a sudden you're like, okay, shit, the plumbing is not great and there's problems. And the tank goes on the tank.
The septic tank goes.
The septic tank
something
goes,
like that.
And you're needed to do the whole well system over, right? Like those are deeper things underneath. There's actually a gentleman that we stayed at his place in New York for the eclipse, and we did ceremony out there for a couple of days. And he was saying that they had to, I think like the one of the houses, he had to do some stuff with like foundational stuff or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay.
So it might look all good on the outside, but there might be some problems on the inside.
Yeah. And so what I say with that is that's like imagining the deeper layers of the things that are happening hucha-wise that are in your energetic field. So, if somebody has an injury, like, like Nick, like, he hurt his leg, right?
Yep.
He can feel that really intensely there. And that means there's a lot of that hucha there, right? And so he has to do things to help with that hucha, to move that hucha through. And that's getting condensed in the area. Now, if we looked at it from a shamanic perspective, if we have a situation that we have gone through that might be traumatic, then it can accumulate into parts of our field, of our energetic field, right? So there's that energetic blueprint that's in the field, and then there's doing the shamanic healing work that's on that journey level, like I spoke about, where I'm like, okay, like what's going on in the spiritual domain of this client, and then physically, taking my tools that I have. So like one of my number one tools is a rattle. So I'm doing that rattle and I'm clearing off the top hucha. So it's like, imagine like you go in that home and you are cleaning it up because it needs to be cleaned up. That's like the higher level.
So the rattling is like akin to like saging your house.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then I would be like working with like stones and doing healing with that, and then different herbs I might be working with. But then on a deeper level, I would use other tools. But I don't know if they might be a little too far. But I have like my fur buzz, and I have other extraction tools for deeper things. So imagine it's almost like an energetic surgery, right? Because like a psychic surgery of sorts, more of on a spiritual level. So like, for instance, if somebody is like needs to get, like a cyst removed, like my brother had this cyst in the back of his ear. It was like, must have been a pimple or something, but then it turned into like a cyst, or maybe it was a gland or something like that. They had to have that operated on it. When I was younger, in high school, I had these little styes that were like in my eyelid, and they had to open it up and they had to drain it because it was a clogged gland in my eye. Now, so those are physical surgery.
You would say that there's like energetic ones.
Yes,
of that?
Energetic that are in our physical body, in our energetic body. And so I'm going from a perspective of on the shamanic level into the spirit world to see what needs to be addressed to that person. And then I'm doing the energetic healing work. And then finally, from that point, then there's empowerment. And so this also is to help remove the hucha. So there's also,
for example,
certain practices where we're doing that, and that's helping with certain stones that are in here that are helping to remove the hucha. But also I can offer those prayers and those blessings to that area and blow certain prayers and blessings to empower.
My shoulder feels better already.
Empower my client. I can even like, there's like a special prayers, Samachai, Yawachai, Tunchai, Kapanchai. And that's a special blessing.
I was going to
that's
mention that
done
one.
at the end of the session. So you were like so in sync. So those are just a couple of examples. I don't know. I wanted to get back that there was somebody up here that mentioned
You're
about.
referring to the essence of an animal or calling upon an own animal guide to help facilitate healing.
Okay, so there's two answers to that, Richard, if you're still here. So basically, I work with animal guides. I would call them like my animal guide, my animal ally. They're my teachers too. And actually, really, where the true healing gifts come from is from our relationships with our spirit guides and our allies.
And that's what I was talking about in the previous live stream about building relationships with spirits rather than just calling on them to help you get X, Y, or Z, which you find in a lot of magical practice. Look at the Goesha with you have 72 demons that
are angels.
You know, they're spirits. That's what daemon means, spirit. But anyways, the idea is each of them is good at something, right? So you need help with something. So you call on them and then you command them and boss them around to get you to do the thing. With a lot of other spirits like the 15 Names of Marduk or the 72 Nurgak, you're offering something in exchange for getting something. You know, like Barashakusha, the miracle worker, please help me obtain this, you know, or Adu, the random moving factor one. She loves that one. You know, help unstick this stuck situation. I'm gonna offer you some incense, some pine, sandalwood, or cedar, and burn some stuff, and then you'll help me out with this thing. It's very transactional. Mm-hmm. It's like hiring somebody to fix something in your house. It's the same thing. But shamanism more relies on the relationship that you build with spirits that make you, like, you know, have friends, I guess you could say, or like partners toward the same thing. In my last live stream, I was talking a lot about that, and I believe I made a challenge to anybody that was watching to go pick a spirit and work with them on a regular basis. So like, as far as like power animals and stuff go, what are the benefits of like building that relationship? How do they help you?
Yeah, so I just wanted to just answer this other part of that question too, about tapping into the essence of the animal. So when you do the animal power retrieval, it's very much you're bringing the essence into that person, and that energy can live inside of them, of that spirit of that animal. And at the same time too, the second part of that is that I kind of help them to support them on how to build that relationship with them. And usually when it starts, it's usually like the spirit animal will say like, okay, these are ways I want you to incorporate me and you in my life. Like, this is what I want you to bring more of. I want you to bring more of X, Y, and Z. And then I always invite them to, you know, have a statue or have something symbolic to kind of bring them in. And, you know, then we can get all into like another video on doing animal power animals and animal guides and stuff like that. But, you know, kind of like starting to even like open the dialogue. So it even goes back to like why, like, you know, like I always found it was interesting. Is like, you know, like if you just do a spell and you're like, hey, help me out for this one thing. Okay, well, thanks and goodbye, right? Like, but it's like when you have that relationship, it's the same thing as like a teacher. So like when you have that animal in your life, it can start empowering you. So I'll give you an example of this person that had the wolf retrieval, right? That person started feeling like they were able to connect to the wild side of them. They were feeling like they could stand up more for themselves. They felt like they could be able to even connect to a pack, even though like wolves can be alone. Like that was interesting because that was kind of their thing. Is like, okay, I'm like kind of my own. I'm alone. I'm not connecting to people. They started connecting to other coworkers to actually be like, okay, like we're gonna go on this work trip, and I'm gonna like actually go with these coworkers. I'm gonna have a great time. Like, okay, I'm gonna like go. Like part of their homework was like to go on to like Meetup and go and find some hiking groups. I said, well, even if you're not gonna like stay around this long in the area, and you might move away after your job is over, or like your, you know, it was like a temporary job or whatever was going to be over. I said, you can still check this out. So then like, that's that kind of part of like, he was saying like the action, like taking action.
So which can be inspired by like different allegorical attributes of a particular spirit of a particular animal.
Yeah.
You know, like if I need to bring in more laziness into my life, I might end up on an animal journey finding a sloth.
Yeah. You know, maybe you need to slow down, you know, like
something like that, or a slow loris. Those guys are cute. But carry on.
Yeah. And and so that client was able to start really getting into that place of that feeling of power, that was able to open them up to that energy of the wolf. And they actually eventually, it was so cool, they got a tattoo and they sent me the picture. It was like so beautiful because
it was a pretty rad tattoo.
They like their face, like Nick did not like meet this client of mine because sometimes he might see them if they come to my place. But this person, like you could see on their face, like their face even changed. Like if you've ever like done things where you went on like a cleanse, or you do something for like kind of changing some of your health diets. Maybe you cut something out, like maybe you cut
or
out,
even if you just have a better attitude, sometimes like that can improve your health too.
Yeah, but sometimes you can see that on like someone's face, like all of a sudden like they're glowing. You're like, what are you doing? Like that's because that energy that Sami is radiating in there, not only for their own spiritual benefit and for their life, but also for their energy, for their life force, for their health. So, it goes back to this whole aspect of like, we can go and do magical spells and we can do manifestation and law of attraction all day long. But let me tell you, the number one thing that can either interfere with it or block it or create resistance or create like some little turbulence, or like whatever against what we want to manifest, is usually somewhere from things in our subconscious. And the way that I see it is the way we can heal the subconscious. Obviously, we can go to therapy, but that can take a really long time. We can do shamanic healing. We can go deep into that soul level and we can heal those parts of ourselves. We can help to heal our inner child. We can help heal and let go of things from our childhood, past lives, ancestral things.
Yeah, so it's like the energetics and the energetics behind it that can feed into the problems that are happening, which can be kind of programmed by past life stuff, past experience stuff, and healing those kinds of things. Would you say that it's like you're releasing yourself from certain things, like and you could have a traumatic experience that's holding you back from engaging in something that you want to do, almost like a golden shadow kind of thing, maybe.
Yeah,
a little bit.
Yeah, so there's like actually like a really great, I don't have like the chart on hand on me, it's somewhere in like lots of my notes from years of studies, but it's called like the moment. I have two different algorithms. I have like the momentum tunnel concept, and I also have the golden Buddha. So these are two different things I want to share with you guys. So the momentum tunnel is imagining that we have the spectrum and our future. Let's say, give me something over there.
We just hands
here. We'll just say that this is right
there.
Okay.
There it is.
So my rattle right here is the future that you want to get to, right? So let's say a great one is a relationship. You could also do for your career, whatever. You could even imagine your own life. You could say, okay, think right now, something that you want to manifest, something that you desire in your future, right? And you want to get to that, okay? Now we have this timeline, right? And you are right here, okay? There's a direct line right there. Whew. That would be a quick, easy to get right to it, right? Whew. Now imagine what happens is we have all the stuff from our past out this way, and those things are pulling us back. So it could even be like cords. It could be like sticky putty, and there could be these different things kind of yanking us backwards. So if, for instance, let's say that we want to manifest the love of our life, but maybe when you were a child, your parents divorced, or maybe you had
a really bad experience with in a previous relationship.
Right?
Yeah.
Those things are yanking on you, pulling you away. Also, what happens is because they're yanking you from that way, you're getting that resistance that's pulling you this way, away from it, making it harder to go that. So when you're pushing this way, it's yanking you back. Secondly, what happens is because those things are pulling more gravity and more weight on you, they are actually pushing you towards other realities. So like, they say like we can have multiple.
Or rather than going
realities.
Here, you're going to go up here.
Yep.
Or you're going to go down there.
So those things are holding you back. And then what happens is like the parts of you are way down here that you need to get back, and you need to bring those parts up from down below and bring them back to you and clear those things of the past and cut those cords and release those things. So you're bringing the energy back, you're empowering yourself, you're clearing the past. Now you can go way quicker to where you want to be. Second story is the Golden Buddha story. So the Golden Buddha, I have to look this up again because it's been so long, but it was somewhere out in Asia. And so when there was these people coming through and they were taking over these places, and like pillaging, and they would take all the gold. This one community wanted to protect their Golden Buddha because these statues would be covered in the gold.
I like this story a lot.
But for them, it was a spiritual thing of enlightenment. So it was like this beautiful thing of like,
it's not the money of the Golden Buddha, because those kinds of things, they were so ornate to exemplify the higher level of spirituality with that particular being.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what they did is they took all this mud and they were able to create kind of a cement and put it over this big Golden Buddha. I mean, this thing was huge. It was massive. Like if you've ever seen like online, like those pictures where they have like the big temples and they have those gigantic, enormous Buddha statues, like it was enormous.
Mm-hmm.
And so they covered this whole thing and their village was pillaged, but their Golden Buddha was protected. Well,
because it didn't look like it, did it?
Yeah, it looked like a cement statue. So it didn't really matter. It's like, oh, it's stone, it's cement. Who cares? Like, let's just keep going on. And so then, years and decades went by and it continued to go by. There was monks there and they meditate and they're in prayer and spirituality and in that place of love. And one day somebody notices something glistening from the Buddha. He goes over and this little piece falls right out and he sees this gold and it's like glimmering and the sun's hitting it. And so he kind of goes slow as this and it starts picking off and they discover, oh my gosh, this isn't some stone or cement Buddha. It's a Golden Buddha. So they start working together. Everybody in the town, the village, they all start chipping away at this Buddha and they unearth the Golden Buddha. And that Golden Buddha goes back to the relation of who we truly are. So all of us are divine beings of light. We are all divine Golden Buddhas. We are all divine Christos, Sophias. We are all divine spirits, however you want to say it, right? We all have the divine spark in us, right? And so what happens is when we have all those traumas and all the heartbreak and all the things we taken from our ancestors, it starts just going on top of us.
That's the mud.
That's the mud.
Mm-hmm.
And covers us up. So shamanic healing is helping to peel away those layers to get and unearth our true divine essence, our golden light of who we are. So those are two little metaphors that relate to the shamanic healing. And then I'll pass back to you.
Well,
hey, it's like a talking stick.
I'll take the talking stick. But, so what are the kinds of, because we are about 50 minutes in. I don't want to keep it longer than an hour because I got to sleep. But are there any misconceptions about shamanism that you think you might be able to like give me a misconception about shamanism or something that you could kind of, if you can relate magic to shamanism, one of those things?
I would probably say the biggest thing is just like anything in society, especially the new age and spiritual community, as more and more people have become awakened to this and kind of enter in this domain, is and especially with like social media pushing these concepts, is like the instant fix, right? Like we think like that one spell.
I get so many people with magic that are like, help me get this one thing, and because they think I can do it all for them. Right. But as I constantly harp on, magic isn't just an instant, like a magic bullet.
Yeah.
And shamanism isn't either.
Yeah. So it does take time to work at it. And I also think it's great when you do things that are complementary. So for instance, if somebody's like, I want to lose weight. Well, they can't just go to the gym and work out. They also
change what you
change what they eat. And they can't just do it temporarily. They want to change into those healthy habits for the rest of their life. So it's the same thing with the shamanic healing and the magic. It's like, it's one thing to say like, okay, like I'm going to manifest this. I actually have to put real work into that. Like, okay, if you get a job, you can't just be, lackadaisical. Like, you know what I mean? Like you have to actually put the energy into it. Right. Or, maybe you get accepted into college because you wanted to manifest that or use magic to manifest getting college. Well, you're going to have to work too to like get that college degree that you were able to earn. Like maybe you wanted to go to and get like a degree in arts, and like that's what your dream is. Like you have to put the energy into it, right?
Yep.
Same thing with, you know, like law of attraction. Like, you know, if you manifest a relationship, like it doesn't end there, right? Like that's just the
You
beginning.
got to work at it.
Let me tell you right now, like shamanic healing is what really turned our relationship around, and, you know, doing that deep inner work. And so I think really both magic and shamanism, I mean, if you have either one, you still got to do that deep inner work, and it is possible to be able to have, you know, the life that you want. And I think that, you know, you can utilize both magic and shamanism to help not only get the result you want, but actually to be able to really create more of the life that you want. And I think the final thing is, you know, I think sometimes with like, you know, like magic and shamanism, maybe there's a misconception or this idea that's kind of pushes like this thing just does this thing for you. But really it's about who you're becoming. So we can use magic to become the person we want to be, not just manifest this outside reality.
Just get the thing that we want.
Yeah.
Because I mean, if you don't change, arguably your reality and your results won't either. You know, that's why if you wanted to go for something, like I talk about this in a lot of my videos, everything that's around you is something that you are consciously or subconsciously manifesting through your choices, through your actions, and all these other things. So if you want to have something that's different, then you have to act different. Your energy has to be different. You have to change your habits, change the way you think. You have to be able to meet that thing where it's at, because you're at point A over here. Your result is at point B over here. And, you know, I always argue, like, you got to meet it halfway. You might have to meet it 90-10 sometimes, depending on the goal, and various things for magic require less effort, and other things can require a lot more effort. And, you know, each of those things is very heavily nuanced, but that's the one thing that I really like about shamanism when you pair it with magic, is the fact that it's bigger than every book that I've read, not written, about magic. That you see so many of these cookie cutter spell things about this is what you do to get A, B, C, or D, but how do you maintain that? You maintain those kinds of things in that upward trajectory, because nobody stops growing, or stuff doesn't just stop, by changing who you are on the inside and the outside. And of course, real world action can be really, really easy for a lot of people that aren't even into spiritual stuff. Like my dad is not spiritual at all. Is he successful? Yeah, because he's worked on himself. But when it comes to working on inside stuff, that you could dive super deep in that and work on stuff outside with shamanism / magic. That makes sense?
Yeah, definitely.
Hopefully that made sense.
Yeah. And, you know,
it started to ramble.
The thing is that, like, really, at the end of the day, I feel that, you know, we can utilize magic, we can utilize law of attraction, we can utilize shamanic healing, you know, we can utilize these things to get to a place, a destination, right? But to really get to that place and destination, it's really about transforming ourselves, doing the inner work. And the old occultists, they all knew this. When they were studying that philosopher's stone, that's the philosopher's stone is me, is him.
It's not a rock. It's not an external thing.
Yeah, the philosopher's stone is you. That alchemical work that they did, the deep occultists, was all about transforming yourself, transforming the lead into the gold, right? Like, or as, like, you know, they say, like the hucha, right? Like that hucha, that heavy, dense energy of all those things into the sami, the pure, refined energy of being able to, you know, chip away at all of those things of the layers of things that are on top of that golden Buddha, and then reveal this divine being that's underneath there. And then being able to heal and release and let go of our traumas, and be able to empower ourselves and be like, shit, this is who I am. I'm freaking amazing. Because it's one thing to say, I want to manifest the love of my life. I want to manifest that career job. I want to manifest this house. But it's a whole other thing when you're like, I want to manifest healing myself and upleveling myself so that I'm getting to enjoy my life. That, like, I get to, like, live this life where, like, I'm just, like, living out this joy every single day. Like, and that's, like, you know, even just, like, kind of, like, wrap it up to the beginning, like, as we close this off, is that we both manifest each other. I do law of attraction because I'm more of what is it? It's the yogi, and the Kira tradition yogi is the feminine, and it can be kind of like more wild and free and
I'm glad
chaotic.
you set me up for that one because I always get them confused.
Yes.
And I'm more of the Panya, which is more of like the rigid, structured kind of thing, because
Ceremonial.
Yeah, the ceremonial stuff.
Magic.
So that's complementary, which is also called Yanantan.
Yes.
I'm getting my buzzwords right.
I know you are. You're getting them right. He's a good student. So again, it goes back to, remember, you can manifest those things, but manifesting like who you want to become, like that is absolute freaking gold. And if you are interested, maybe that could be our next live stream, as we can talk about working with alter ego work and working with being able to help us to create new identities and how we can work with the shamanic healing and the magic together to help support that work. So so I'm super excited. I think because it's gone a little bit over an hour, maybe I'll make a separate video to explain the Magick Shamanism meditation, offer as a meditation practice to you guys. If you guys are interested, let me know, comment below. And just thank you for having me on here for the first time.
I finally did it. I mean, the last time you were on the channel was about those, like the astrology videos.
Yeah, the astrology videos.
If you remember those, and I think it was a couple of astrology forecasts, and then detailing a lot of the different signs. And that was a long time ago. I've been with her for forever.
Yeah, my thing is like teaching classes in person and having I have my clients and I have my apprentices.
Finally gotten her on the internet.
Yeah. So, and then the last couple of years, I've just been so deeply diving into my studies too. So I haven't really. I've like slowly made my way back into social media, but I was also like, man, my life is so freaking good. People are like, how did you exit out of this matrix? I'm like, dude, it's amazing. Like, I feel so freaking good. Thank you for sharing that you enjoyed the video there, T-Man. Yeah, so definitely share that Magick meditation practice with you. So if you guys are interested and you are looking for shamanic healing, you want to learn more about it, just send him a message through here. And I don't know wherever that information is.
Description
below. We'll have the information there. So if you do have any questions about shamanic healing, or if you're interested in shamanic healing, definitely let me know. I work with people, money wise, so don't let that get to you. I have like a sliding scale, and so that I have people that will pay more, and it balances the people that don't pay as much. So it's all good. And if there's anything that you had questions about from this video, from the replay or right now, throw them in there, or videos you want us to make, and we are happy to make those and share more about shamanism and shamanic healing. All
right. So thanks for everybody that was commenting, and everybody that watched. So I don't know if we're going to be doing it with the same backdrop next time. We're probably not scheduling these things right now, but we'll do them as we get to them and as different stuff in life allows. But
and give them heads up ahead of time when we know we're gonna do them.
Oh yeah, if we can, if that's the thing that we're planning, I will probably put it up on the community tab, and also on the Magickology YT Facebook group and the Magickology YT the Facebook page. Check the link tree for all that good stuff. But so yeah, we'll just end it off for now. But thank you for everybody that was here, and good hunting.
Bye.